Alright, so I painted and cleared this quarter panel yesterday, and I went to pull the paper off, and water dripped right down the back of the quarter panel. So what I'm going to do is wet sand and buff it out. Should turn out pretty nice. It's going to take a little bit, but we'll get her looking good. So I'm going to start with this 800 1000 grit wet sanding sponge. That'll knock the edge down pretty quickly, and then we will transition from that to 1000 grit wet sandpaper. There it is. And then to 1500, and then we'll go over with 2000 as well. I'm going to spray a little bit of this Totally Awesome, so it has a little bit of soap on it, so make it a little easier for me to wet sand. And then I'm just going to hit it with some water too. And spray down their wet sand sponge here. You should be able to see the marks here in a second. So I'm wet sanding horizontally, and then I'm going to switch when I go to 1000 grit. I'm going to wet sand that vertically to wet sand out the lines for the 800. I'm going to dry this off so you can see. The sun's shining on it pretty good right now. Alright, there you go. And you can see where the lines are. Here's what I already wet sanded out. So it didn't really take too much to get that down with the 800 to 1000 grit wet sand sponge. So you got to be careful, because you don't want to go too far in here, because it'll go right through the clear coat. Now I did put 3 heavy coats of clear on here. You got enough here to wet sand it down. You just got to be careful, because if you go too far, then you got to repaint the whole thing. You don't want to do that. Alright, so we're going to keep moving on. Again, a little more of the Awesome all-purpose cleaner and some water. While I'm sanding, you should be able to see the line disappear. So it's important to have good light. That's why I'm out here outside doing this. As you can see, the line's going. We got a few little spots here. We're gonna wet sand that out too. And I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over this with that 1000 grit. Like I said, I'm gonna go vertically, then horizontally again with the 1500 grit, then vertically again with the 2000, and then it should buff back pretty easily. All right, so now that we got the bottom wet sanded out, I'm gonna move to the top here and get this finished. I gotta finish off this part here too. Make sure that you're keeping this sanding sponge wet while you're doing it, because it just makes it easier to glide over. See, as I'm wet sanding, you can see that line disappearing. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but when you're doing it, if you keep watching the line, you'll be able to see it disappear as you're wet sanding. And while you're doing this, just be careful that you don't stay in one spot too long, because that's how you'll wet sand right through the clear. All right, it looks like I got the line out. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna clean this off and see what it looks like. Oh yeah. There we go. Now while I was wet sanding this, I just noticed that there's a line right here as well that I missed all the way down. So we're gonna hit this as well. And clean that off. See what we got. As you can see, the line's going. Now we just got to do the finishing touches with 1000, 1500, and then 2000. All right, so here's what it looks like wet sanded out with the 800 to 1000 grit with the wet sanding sponge. So these dots here, once I hit it with the 1000, 1500, 2000, that's going to be gone. So we're going to finish up the process here. I'm going to take this 1000 grit and I'm going to wrap it in this wet sanding sponge that I already used. So I like to always put it here, kind of in the middle. Notice I've used it before. And you just wrap it around the sponge, just like that. Just try and keep this edge wrapped around here like this. So again, we're going vertical. 1000 grit. You don't have to go super hard because we are going to be wet sanding it out with the other grits. You just want to get those sand lines out, so when you buff it, you're not going to see the sand lines. Hey guys, while you're watching this, smash that subscribe button for more videos like this one. Alright, we're moving on to 1500. Again, we're back to sanding horizontally. Just wanted to show you something. If you're using this wet sand sponge, make sure that you're wet sanding on the back part of it, not the front, because this is the 800 grit. You definitely don't want to get that on your panel here, because that's going to screw it up and you're going to start all over. You're going to get an arm workout doing this for sure. My arms are tired right now. Alright, we're going to dry it off, then hit it with the 2000 grit. Alright, now last step, 2000 grit. Now we're ready to hit this with the buffer. The shine should come back really nice. And I'll show you the buffer that I'm using. Alright, so when it comes to buffing, you want to get yourself a good compound. I use 3M. There's so many out there that you can use. Also, get yourself a good microfiber towel to clean off the panel when you're done. And then get yourself a good buffer. So I've had this buffer for 15 years. In one of my other videos, I show how I repaired this DeWalt buffer. So I'm going to prove the naysayers wrong about this holding. I used a hot staple gun to melt this back together because it was broken. So I'm going to show you that it still works even though it was broken. And look, I'm not going to cut myself because I melted all this back together. So this pad is pretty dirty. I'm going to take a popsicle stick, I'm going to turn it on and just clean all this dirt off here. There's other ways of doing it. Some people throw them in the washing machine and clean them off. I'm about due for a new pad. This pad's been on here for a pretty good while, so I'm gonna hit it with the popsicle stick and you'll see that it'll clean most of it off. A lot better. So a rule of thumb that I've learned doing this for 15 years, I typically like to do about 8 inches to a foot radius, just a small square. You work on that until you get the shine back, and then you move on to the next part of the panel. Put a generous amount. I usually like to put about 5 dots, sort of like that, maybe a little more. You'll be able to tell as you're buffing. Make sure that your buffer, if you're using a rotary buffer, make sure that this setting is, let me see if I can get it on the camera here. See how it's at 1000? You want it as low as possible. So this goes all the way up to 3000. That's just so you can hit it real quick, but you're gonna have a ton of swirls. So cut it all the way down to 1000 and you'll be good to go. So I like to squeeze the trigger just a little bit to get the buffer moving. And I'll take my pad and just kind of run it over like this. And you want to go real slow. I lock it in. Slow back and forth motion, up and down. Let the buffer do the work. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on it. The buffer's going to bring back the shine. If you put too much pressure on it, you're going to go through the clear coat. And you don't want to stay in one spot, because you're going to burn through the clear. All right, so I can see that I'm gonna need a little more compound. So right in this area, I don't know if you can see it with the phone, but I can tell that there's still light sand scratches. So I didn't put enough compound on to buff this out. So we're gonna put some more compound on here. Don't hold it in one spot. You see this right here? Don't try and go over your buffer with it. You're just gonna burn through the clear. So normally what I'll do is I'll just hit this with a little spray of water. Use my microfiber towel. Just wipe it off. It's just excess. And then we'll go back to it. I'm gonna wipe this panel off so you can see the shine. So the top part is good. I just have to hit the bottom down here a little more because I can see that it's not completely done. But let me show you what this looks like. Again, I'm going to put a generous amount. Working in small areas. Hey guys, while I'm doing this, so this is my first time doing a tutorial. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the tutorial. I'm not used to speaking on videos, so this is all new to me. See, I got a little too much compound on here, but we'll work with it. Kind of pull it away. Now I can go slow. Just keep working it until you see it shining. So this panel is getting a little hot. You want to be careful with the temperature on this because that'll burn right through the clear. So I'm glad I stopped when I did. As you can see, the buffer is holding up nice, so I don't have to worry about it breaking. I'm just gonna hit this with the microfiber again, clean some of the excess off so I can see what we got here. A good way to see if you got all the sand marks out is if you spray it with water, wipe it clean, see if you can see any sanding scratches, which I don't, so that means, you know, I got them all buffed out. All right, a little trick that I learned over the years with the buffer and using this for so long. So when I put the compound on the panel here, I like to tilt this just a tiny bit so that way I'm not flinging a bunch of compound all over the car. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm gonna do what I normally do, spin this around, put it all over, and then I tilt it just a little bit like this. Kind of work it in. Again, we're not putting a lot of pressure on it, but this keeps it from spraying compound all over the place. And then I just level it back out and just buff it. So it might be hard to see. I'm going to zoom in here, but you can see the reflection of my other car here. There's the metallic is showing through. But the watermark is gone, and the panel is nice and shiny. Let's get an angle from this way so you can see it a little bit better. There you go, guys. I hope you liked the video. I hope I gave a full demonstration. You kind of understood how to do it and tackle wet sanding and buffing on your own. Make sure you subscribe for more videos. Thanks. See you on the next one.